A new salesman rolled into town a few days ago. The shady character never showed his face as he promoted his potions. Dreamforge Brew, he called it. The townsfolk had grown cautious of wandering salesmen like this, and the snake oil they tried to sell to the masses under promise of an instantaneous cure or some form of immortality. But this man followed through on his promises. He allowed some random townsfolk to sample his wares. It's called the Dreamforge Brew because your desire is what it will do. Just pour it and wish, was all he told them. Everyone stood in shock as the people who drank from his bottles were immediately graced by their heart's material desires. Riches would pour from the bottles, far more gold coins than could possibly fit within them. Some people received soft fur coats and blankets that would manifest from the puddles of potion on the ground. One man, known through the town for his horrid appearance, poured the potion over his head and became incredibly handsome. Such feats couldn't possibly have been faked. If they could, the methods escaped the amazed masses. The shops sold out of Dreamforge Brew before the day ended. Most of the people ran through the streets pouring out their brew and claiming their wishes all over the place. Others chose to remain secluded in their homes and use their potions sparingly, worried that others would steal and use them, or that their bottles would run empty before they got what they really wanted. The following day, the Dreamforge Brew salesman was nowhere to be found, even though the townsfolk demanded more of the wonderful potion. Their greed drove them to invade each other's homes in search of more brew. What they found, instead, left everyone screaming. A family that had chosen to be intelligent and hide their brew had passed away in their sleep. Their bodies lay in their beds, dried and brittle, like burnt twigs and gray as ash. Their bottle of Dreamforge Brew had been found within a dresser next to the master bed, but something was dreadfully wrong with it. While everyone else's brews had been brightly colored and luminescent, this bottle contained a black viscous fluid lined with throbbing red veins. The bottle was isolated into a hastily made cage in the town square. Everyone figured that specific brew must have been faulty, and everyone agreed to label it as such. They left it out in the open as a warning to anyone else in town. If anyone found another bottle like that, they should turn it in. The ghastly visual of the family that had likely died because of this potion was more than enough to convince everyone, and excitement died down. Now everyone started concocting conspiracies about the Dreamforge Brew. Was that bottle faulty to begin with, or did something happen to it? Did those people attempt to refill the bottle somehow? Or maybe modify it in some way? Or was that what would happen when the potion ran out? The townsfolk stopped using their brews altogether. Everyone's fear of the blessed potions they'd been using up until now had grown too great. The following day, 2 more households faced the same fate. The people were found dead in their beds, dried and drained. Their Dreamforge brews looked identical to the first one. Close friends of one of the victims relayed that the brew their late friend owned previously did not look like that, so something must have happened to it. But why would anyone try to augment their potion with all of the rumors arising? No one could be daft enough to attempt that. Nor did anyone dare spend their brew entirely. This must have happened on its own. Without another instruction, everyone rushed to their homes to turn in their brews. If this happened on its own, it wasn't going to happen within their own homes. Soon the cage containing the dark brews was surrounded by half-empty bottles of the enigmatic potion. No one knew how to properly dispose of the brew, so isolating it was the best they could do for now. The following day, 5 more people were found dead in their homes. All of them had turned in their brews already, and this was proved by the appearance of 5 black brews mixed into the pile by the cage. The town erupted in panic again. The brews had still claimed lives overnight, and they weren't even in nor near their owners' homes. One man ran over to the pile and grabbed the first brew he could, screaming that he'd had enough. Before anyone could intervene, he raised the bottle over his head and smashed it against the cobbles underfoot. A cloud of black mist erupted from the shattered glass. The cloud quickly assumed a menacing form and washed over the man, draining him of his life in an instant. His dried husk fell to the ground where it crackled and shattered to dust. Now, where the remains of the bottle lay, a small creature, blacker than the night sky and covered in the same red veins. It curled over itself and froze as its body dried up like the victims the brews had previously taken. The townsfolk stood frozen in shock, some trying to work out what had just happened, others too scared to do anything. Such a pity. A far too familiar voice drew their attention. Everyone looked that way to see the dark-cloaked stranger who sold them the brew. They all wanted to yell at him, to scream, to claim justice, but no one could move. For some reason, he scared them more than the brews did. I had hoped a few more would develop before you found them, maybe even hatch. He bent down and lifted the dead creature off the ground, then turned to retrieve the bottles of blackened brew. "Who are you?" one man in the crowd finally yelled. "What is all of this?" The stranger turned to face the crowd. He removed the shroud that hid his face, revealing an inhuman being with large, lidless, white eyes. "My name is Fear," he said, "and these," he held up a bottle, "are my children.